Hi, everybody, and welcome to Park Place Lanes here in Windham, New Hampshire, the home of Stars and Strikes, and welcome particularly to our premiere show of Stars and Strikes doubles. We're very happy to have you with us. Doug Brown along with Dan Murphy. It's very much like the original Stars and Strikes, Dan, just with a little bit of a twist.
That's right. It's doubles, and it's also a Scotch doubles format, which we'll get into that as the show progresses, just exactly how that works. It's exciting. It's a team event, and the only twist here is that instead of being up there every 2 boxes, you got to wait 4. So sometimes that has a tendency to cool you down a little bit.
Well, what about that? Normally we see the individual nature of Candlepins. Here we're going to see it in the team aspect.
Well, there's a lot to it. First of all, you got a little confidence in your partner, a little camaraderie ship there, and you put up the mark. Your partner's most times is going to fill that mark. So it's a matter of just getting in a good rhythm and being able to settle yourself down and wait 4 boxes instead of 2 before you get up there again.
All right, we'll tell you more about the particulars of Stars and Strikes doubles, how the bowlers got here, what the prize money will be. That whole description will come a little bit later on, but we want you to meet our first 2 teams here on the premiere of Stars and Strikes doubles. First of all, our number 5 seeded team from Nashua, New Hampshire, Joe Ashline, and from Derry, Dave Richards.
That's right, and they both carry, well, respectively, 128 and 124 average. Their roll-off scores were 642 and 641.
Pretty good, pretty impressive team to be in that number 5 seeded spot, and the team they're going against is a pretty impressive one as well. Our number 4 seeded team from Somersworth, New Hampshire, Pat Pay, and from Needham, Massachusetts, Reggie DeLine.
Okay, and Pat carries an average of 129, 125 for Reggie DeLine, and their roll-off scores, Pat 652, Reggie 637.
All right, again, we'll tell you more about the roll-off scores and how the teams were paired, and a little bit more about Stars and Strikes doubles as we continue. We'll take our first time out, and we'll come back with string number 1, 3 strings of doubles coming up here on Stars and Strikes. Don't go away. Welcome back to Stars and Strikes doubles, and before we get our match started, here's a look at the bowlers you'll be seeing in this series. Joe Ashline and Dave Richards facing Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine this week. Don Weatherby and John Maffio come in next week. Our number 2 seeds are Wayne Denon and Steve Plant, and sitting in the number 1 spot, Gary Carrington and Jack Ray. But right now, Joe Ashline set to get us started here on Stars doubles on lane 32 here at Park Place Lanes. And that is a start.
I guess it is. Didn't waste any time. You see a quick replay. That right 3/4 on the head pin, 1-3 pocket. There goes the 4 pin, and then finally the 10. Great start for Joe.
Now again, this is the Scotch doubles format, so it's 2 boxes for each bowler on the team. They alternate. And Dan was talking about a little bit of the strategy involved in the Open. Basically, what it means is that the team members decide prior to the start of the match who will start the match. And then they will alternate 2 boxes each for the first 2 strings. And then at the beginning of the 3rd string, the team members will talk it over again and decide who's going to start the 3rd string. Basically, what this all settles is who's going to bowl the extra 2 boxes in the match. Pat Pay now.
Everything but the 7 pin. You noticed on the ladder that Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine tied in the roll-off with Don Weatherby and John Maffio, and we had a 1-string roll-off prior to starting the show to decide the seeding. And if the matches are any indication of that roll-off string, we're going to have some big scores, because the roll-off score was John Maffio and Don Weatherby 155, Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine 152.
Couple of spares for Pat Pay to start it off. That really was a heck of a string. Pat Pay came up for the final 2 boxes needing 40 pins to tie. He threw a spare, then a strike, and then of course he needed the spare to tie, and he had the 4 horsemen, and he just punched through on the head pin, was unable to convert it, so they lost by 3.
Thought we were going to go into overtime again.
This is Dave Richards.
And as I understand it correctly, we'll be seeing Dave Richards on Stars and Strikes.
We will, next week. Dave comes in as the number 3 seed on our singles show. Again, our computerized scoring, as you're accustomed to on Stars and Strikes, with the team members listed.
Two, 4, and 6 almost cut the 2 pin into the 6. Great try by Dave Richards.
Let me give you an idea what's at stake here. The winning team, the team that wins the series, will split $800. The second place team splits $400. Third place, $250. Fourth place, $200. Fifth place, $150. And this is Reggie DeLine now.
Disappointing one fill on the spare for Reggie. He comes right back. Good recovery. That first ball in the match is always tough. Always.
Especially when you have to wait for the other three bowlers to go before you.
Well, you mentioned that right at the opening. You have to, in the regular show, you have to wait just 2 boxes. Here you have to wait 4, so twice as long in between times. Actually, 6 boxes.
And for Reggie, this is his first time on the Winds.
Really, it's his first time. That's surprising. Is it 4 horsemen? Seems like he's here a lot. He comes to watch a lot of the tapings, and I'm surprised. He does a lot of bowling. I'm surprised it's his first time with us.
And now back to Joe Ashline. We've seen each of the bowlers one cycle.
Joe this time crosses over in the 1-2, but a little heavy. Leaves himself 3-6 on the right with a 4-7. And he takes out the 3-pin. And make it a 7.
51.5 for the team of Ashline and Richards. Joe really whips that right arm around, and wow.
Generates a lot of speed, and this time he picks on the 1-2 pocket, and it doesn't take him long to go down. Big strike in the 6th, 61 through 6 with the bonus balls coming. Pat Pay working on a spare in the 4th, already at 49. Decent 8 fill and the 310, but the wood next to the 3 looks like it's almost impossible if he hits that first not to make the spare, and he does. No problem here. Just slide the wood down. Great angle and everything for Pat Pay.
4 spares for the team in the first 5 boxes. And Pat gets a nice break there, kicking out the 9 and 10 pins.
This is a first time for Pat Pay with us too, right?
First time on this show, yeah.
Pat's record on well, the wins on both of our shows. Of course, this is all singles right now. It's the first time for doubles. 21 and 8.
Dave Richards working on the strike left by his partner, Joe Ashline.
And he's got a choice here. He's got 2-4-7 on the left with a 3-pin on the right with a piece of wood. So he could pay the single and have it bounce off the sidewall. That's what he's trying to do. He actually tried to cut it over. Problem with that is that the gambling, that second ball, but you lose a little bit in count by not going for the 3.
We're happy you've joined us for the premiere edition of Stars and Strikes Doubles. We're pretty excited about it and hope you'll be able to join us now for 2 full hours of Candlepin bowling every Sunday here on WNDS TV 50. The shows, just to remind you, are separate in the sense that we will have a Tri-State Megabucks Singles Tournament of Champions on Stars and Strikes, and we will also have a Stars and Strikes Doubles Tournament of Champions next spring.
To bear with me with this electronic score, the computer's gone haywire on me.
Did you say the operator's gone haywire on you? Reggie DeLine puts up 2 more spares. That's 5 in a row for the team.
It stands corrected, I believe.
Looks right to me.
Can't trust these computers sometimes.
Well, you know.
Button stick, and sometimes people push the wrong buttons, but it's not really the case here.
Joe Ashline filling that spare left by Dave Richards with a 7, but he's got a tough cut shot here. The 2, 4, and 6.
4 and 6.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
got it.
but he didn't play it as a cut shot.
You see the replay in that one. He's heavy really on the 2-pin, slaps the 4 into the sidewall, comes across for the 6. 2 marks in a row, and they need a few here. They can't want to fall too much further behind, and Joe's going to do something about that. Now here's a situation where he'll stay up there and fill his own mark because it's the last frame. Everything but the 5, and then finally the 5-pin goes down.
Third strike for Joe Ashline.
Some 124 with 2 balls to come.
Do it!
That looks nice. He's got the 3-6-4-7 piece of wood next to 3-6. That should sweep right. Well, he's a little high. He gets it anyways. He was a little high in this, I thought, but enough to clear him out in a great opening game, 134.
But it may not be good enough to have the lead here after game 1. As Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine are really firing on all cylinders here, as they have 7 marks already in the first 8 boxes, and Pat Pay just misses another one.
The 5-9, he chops out just the 5-pin. So they'll have the lead, but with a big finish by Joe Ashline, it's not going to be that big a lead. Oh, got a break break there. Big break. Looked like he was going to be left with a 3-7-10. Piece of wood knocked out the 3 and the 10. And he's going to be shooting at the 7-pin all by itself. This is a big mark. It could push the lead up to close to 20.
And it will also give the team a 150 plus in this opening game. Well, we mentioned Pat and Reggie fired a 152, losing that one-string roll-off, but here in this first game of the match that counts, they have thrown a 157 for a 23-pin lead after the opening game. Stars and Strikes doubles, our premiere edition, continues right after these words. Don't go away. Back we are for game number 2. Reggie DeLine will lead it off for his team. Again, this keeps the alternating 2 boxes going from how the team started the match, and then at the beginning of the 3rd string, when they've each rolled 10 boxes so far, each team will get to decide again how they want to play that 3rd string. That'll be interesting to see how different teams decide to play that.
That's right. I think it's the first time, at least with any TV show, that you have a choice to switch the lineup after you've started. So a little twist. Should be interesting. They're going to have a tough choice because both bowlers have been bowling real well the first game. And of course, you know, they had, what, 7 marks, so 8 marks actually.
They have not had many opens, but here is one here in the 2nd.
I know how I would play it. I'll wait to see what they do.
Well, wouldn't you just try and... Well, I guess there are a couple different ways you could think about it. You could obviously go with the guy who the team feels is the hottest.
Right.
Or you could do it according to the ball return if you had, say, a right and a left-hander.
Right. That's one other thing I'm thinking of, and that's experience. You know, you go down with, there's a replay of that last spare by Dave Richards, and not to influence them, so I'll talk a little softer, but Pat Pay has been here, what, 30 weeks? 30 different times. When it comes down to crunch time, you just wonder. You know, he's been here so many times that he wouldn't be more relaxed in the situation, not taking anything away from Reggie. So, be interesting to see how they play it.
Dave Richards almost converts the spare, but leaves the 3-pin. And a 2-pin difference in the first two, so Pay and DeLine add to their lead.
Pat right back on the head pin. This time a tough leave. The 2, 5, and 8. Piece of wood, he's going to have to almost cap it. Just like that. Boy, he made it look easy. 37 with the ball to come. He's right on the top of the pin, and the 8 pin was the problem. Just drove everything straight back. Right back in the pocket. Hang on.
Well, the 4 pin has positioned itself farther over toward the 7, so that may make this a little more interesting. The wood in front will tell the story, though.
Yeah, he's going to move the wood in front. Now we got the wood out of the way, Pat. Now you go after me.
Not very often you'll see that happen,
No.
where you hit wood out front and no pins will fall. Now Joe Ashline to try and cut into this lead.
23 pins behind after the first game. They've increased that lead now to 25.
Tough lead. The 4 and the 6 with wood. The way Joe makes those pins fly around, you got to figure he's at least got a chance, but
He's going to have to play this one right next to the left-hand channel, I think. A little farther left, I think. He had a right idea, though.
you can tell how hard Joe throws the ball when he hits those single pins like that. He really fires it.
Almost to the point where I feel sorry for the pins. I really do. He really punishes them. But sometimes that's what happens. A slower ball, full hit, sometimes you leave the pins on the plate a little longer, you get a little better break. But 2, 4 on the left, 3, 6, 10 on the right, piece of wood in between. I had a tendency to think he might go after the 2 and the 4. No, he's going on the other side.
By the way, we want to congratulate Joe and his wife Robin on their second child, Cody, born during the summer. To go along with 2-year-old Derek. Joe Ashline with the 7 box, so the lead increases here in the early portion of the second game. We'll take a timeout here on Stars and Strikes Doubles and be right back. Don't go away. Reggie DeLine from Needham, Massachusetts. Have a long ride. Get people coming from all over to appear with us on the program. And
Is it that long, right? Needham?
Needham is probably a good hour
Really?
in traffic. Of course, with Boston area traffic, I mean, you know,
Could be day.
if you just arrive on the same day, you're lucky.
Hey, Phil on the spare leaves himself to 4-7. I don't know if we explained the roll-offs or not, but what we did is the semifinals were held in each of the NHCBA houses. They send 5 people to the finals, and another spare for Reggie, 2 in a row. And we have a roll-off just like we do for the singles. Instead of qualifying 5 people, we qualified 10. So the top 10 scores, and we matched up the number 1 seed with the number 10 seed, 2 with 9, and so forth, and then we added their roll-off scores together and reseeded them according to total pinfall. So I think that kind of catches us up on.
Could you explain that again?
No, just one time. I
You'll
could
never
have.
do it again, right?
I could have, but I just threw the paper away.
Spare for Dave Richards. Well, I think one thing that this will do is it will perhaps encourage some folks who may have been on the bubble a little bit about whether they would want to try out for the original program, Stars and Strikes, where we take 5 people, which again is more than any other television show takes, but still this gives everyone an opportunity to take a second 5 people and give more people an opportunity to be here on the program.
That's right. We average probably between 60 and 75 people at a final roll-off. So we're taking 10 out of that roll-off, so your chances have increased dramatically. And I'll tell you, in this game, anybody on any given day So call your nearest NHCBA house, ask them when they're having roll-offs for regular Candlepin Stars and Strikes and also Candlepin Stars and Strikes doubles. Those of you who are league bowlers, don't forget too, NHCBA's Sweeps Week coming up October 20 through 26. And let's see if Dan can score and talk at the same time here. Here we go. And that's a unique tournament, as I mentioned on the singles show, where you qualify in your league, and then you decide whether or not you want to participate in the tournament. So it's one of those things that you can get into the race before you figure out who's going to finish, and you decide whether you're going to bowl or not. So it's a unique situation as far as tournaments go, and watch for that. Everybody will be qualifying the week of October 20 through 26.
The 10 for Pat Pay. And now Joe Ashline with another opportunity to cut into this lead. The couple of open boxes, and wow. This may go over. It will.
Okay, right in the 1-3 pocket. It's a matter of time if the 4-pin was going to go or not. Wood rolls back, just enough to knock it over. Might mention there's $2,000 of prize money guaranteed in that sweeps tournament, the final tournament. So be watching for it. Your nearest NHCBA house, you have to be a league member. So
That going for the spare. Not quite. Leaves the 5-pin. Trying to convert the half Worcester. Well, that strike with the 9 fill will draw the team closer in this game, but they still trail by 31 overall.
Yeah, I would say they have to cut that down to probably 20 at least, if not getting under 20. But you never know. It's a high-scoring house, Park Place Lanes. Anything can happen. Double strike here or there, and that lead can dwindle away pretty fast.
Oh, big spare for Reggie DeLine.
Reggie's going to do something about that. Cluster of 5 in the corner. Well, with a 9-pin go, there it goes.
That is the 13th spare for the team already. They have no strikes, 13 spares. You don't need strikes necessarily if you have all those spares.
Oh, very close to cutting the 2-pin into the 6-10. They're going to have a tough decision because Reggie's bowling well. Pat's the experienced one. He's bowling well.
128 middle game for the team and 285 after 2.
It's a pretty good score even in singles, let alone the doubles, because of the time factor and everything else that goes along with doubles, a Scotch doubles format.
Boy, Dave Richards had that ball skip on him. He kind of dropped it a little bit, and it went right through the middle. Dave lives in Derry with his wife, Beth, and works at MVP Sports, does a lot of his bowling in Melrose. And he's moving over now for the
not much to shoot at there. Gives himself the 2 and the 6.
and a 9-box. So a 111 for the team of Ashline and Richards. That is a 245 two-string total. So you see the lead. It is 40 for Pay and DeLine with 1 game to go. We'll be back on Stars and Strikes doubles in a minute. If you'd like to ask Dan some advice so you can sharpen up your game a little bit, whatever happens to be. Joe Ashline working with Dave Richards, and they're trying to work on a 40-pin deficit as they head into this 3rd game.
Joe actually got a bad break right there. He just moved the 2-pin off the spot, and might be a little more difficult. Well, it's going to be difficult if you don't hit the object one, but
Joe does a lot of his bowling at Leda Lanes in Nashua and Pilgrim Lanes in Haverhill. Works as a salesman for Time Electronics. He's upset at himself missing that spare.
Now you're down 40 pins. You got to figure you got to go at least 100 and close to 140, and that's assuming that the other team is going to fall completely apart. But we've saved some big scores here at Park Place Lanes.
And we've seen some big double scores too.
You're right.
As we do doubles from time to time on the noon show, and
mixed doubles format there.
Pat Pay with another spare leave. Want to welcome again and thank the folks from Tri-State Megabucks for being the presenting sponsor on Stars and Strikes doubles, as well as on the original Stars and Strikes. Without them, it wouldn't be possible, and we appreciate their continued support. And also we want to welcome, as a participating sponsor on our first series, Somerville Lumber.
Good spare and a tough spare for Pat Pay. That's right. I don't even know if I won last night. I might have won the Megabucks last night, Doug.
Yeah? You didn't check your ticket?
No. I'm going to check it between shows. I may not be back. Working on a spare. Pat Pay trying to increase his 40-pin lead by 5 more. Interesting, if the match stays the way it is and Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine come out on top, they'll bowl against the team that they tied with, Don Weatherby and John Maffio, next week. They had a roll-off score, if you joined us late, tied, and we had a one-string roll-off, which they won 155-152 against Weatherby and Maffio, so that'll be an interesting matchup next week. But they're coming in regardless of who's here, John Maffio and Don Weatherby.
Oh, big strike for Dave Richards.
That's really what they need right now. Of course, you throw a double up here, and it's a new ball game. Crossing over in the 1-2 pocket. I know Dave's thinking, boy, if I can throw a double here, give a double for Joe to work on. He's on the head pin, but he needs some help. A little full. Makeable spare, though, really, with the 610 on the right with a 7-pin piece of wood. Now, whether we can get the wood to come over onto that 7-pin or not.
Yes, it does. Nice shot by Dave Richards.
Just enough to catch the 7. Actually, it was a 6-pin that stayed in play. All of a sudden, they have 2 in a row.
Reggie DeLine now. Boy, he has been right on target all day, as has his partner.
Well, now it's getting crunch time now. These single pins start to look like pencils down there, and you need them. Oh.
Reggie works at General Mass Marketing. Does a lot of his bowling at the Fairway Sports World in Natick and at the Hanover Bowl in Hanover, Mass. 7 pins off that lead. It's now 33, and Reggie is opposite the spare. Reggie takes a very short approach.
I was just noticing that. Yeah, very, very short.
It's 3 steps, but really the first step with his left foot is like a little baby step. It's like just a couple of inches. And then he takes the one big step with the right foot and then the slide. But it's very much under control, though.
He's going to be open in the 4th, so they've got some of those pins back.
We'll take a timeout, and when we come back, Joe Ashline will work on that spare left by Dave Richards as they try and cut into this lead. Stars and Strikes doubles rolls on in a minute. Joe Ashline now to work on this spare left by his partner, Dave Richards. By the way, in case you're wondering why we're having the bowlers roll 2 consecutive boxes on the same lane, it's just because we're running a little ahead of ourselves here.
Oh,
Slow these
boy.
guys down. Wow.
Boy, I tell you, that is enough to take the wind out of your sails. Just when you start, you got a couple marks in a row, you're making a rush on them, and it's just a mere 2 pins. But the worst part of it, one of them is the head pin, the 1 and the 9.
Well, you talked about that earlier, Dana. Is it safe to say that a kind of a leave like that is more likely to happen with someone that throws the ball hard?
Yes, with Joe. Yeah, he throws the ball so hard. It's got to be right there.
All right, gotta turn it around now, huh? Here we go.
Joe in the pocket this time.
All right.
But he's still going to have to work on this shot.
2-5-7. Not an easy shot. Going after the 2-pin. Right or left, he's got a shot at making it. Oh.
Coming back.
Oh.
No. Boy, Dave Richards can't believe it, and Joe is just very, very frustrated at this point.
He was full on the 2-pin. I thought he'd just chop him out, and he did, but then the wood came back and nudged the 5-pin off the spot, but never knocked it over. Watch this. Boom, and the wood keeps kicking back, and right there, stood it right back up.
Pat Pay now.
And they say, all you have to do is hit him. Oh, watch out.
Pat and his wife Denise live in Somersworth. They have a daughter, Lisa. Pat works at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, cannot convert the triangle. Well, another box ticking off the scoreboard, basically, for Ashline and Richards here, as they cannot gain any ground, certainly, but they're going to have to light a fire here in the last 4 boxes.
Reminds me of the Red Sox. All of a sudden, they ran out of games.
The 7, the 9, and the 10 for Pat Pay.
He's got to hit the wood next to the 9. Hope he gets some action off it. Well, he did, but he didn't take any of the pins with it. And as Doug said, it'd be another 1 less box for Joe and Dave to work on.
Well, the lead is 29.
Not an impossible lead with 4 frames to go. Yeah, I figure they have to have at least 3 out of 4 marks. And they have to be decent fills. You just get the feeling that it might not be in the cards. They seem to be getting that extra pin. Hit some of them, looked like they were going over and stood back up. What you do in that case is pick up a tough one like this. 2-4-7 with the 10 pin. He may decide to play the wood, carrying the ball off it, but I don't know. I think I try to split. That's what he's doing. Just missed it. They'll be down to 3, and they'll have to put some marks up.
If you'd like to come and watch us tape Stars and Strikes doubles, by the way, our next taping session will be on Tuesday, October 22nd. We start at about 9:30 or 10 in the morning and go all day. Tuesday, October 22nd. Next taping session for Stars and Strikes doubles. And again, Dave doesn't have a heck of a lot to shoot at. Lots of wood, though.
He's looking at the 3, the 7, the 8, and the 10. And it looks a lot worse than it is. Oh, yes! Wow.
3 chances it took.
That ball just refused to go into the pit area. Stayed around off the sidewall, back across, and out of the channel and into the 10 pin. It's like a 2 to 4 to 6 to 3 to 1.
Now, see, we made a big deal out of it earlier, and then we never mentioned it at the beginning of this string, but both teams elected to keep the order that they were already on. Joe Ashline and Pat Pay were the 2 bowlers that started this string. Whether it had anything to do with your theory on experience, I don't know, in the case of Pat Pay, but...
Well, they got a mark in the first box, and they've been dry ever since, so I dare say they're going to need another mark. This lead is not safe with Joe Ashline and Dave Richards.
Well, Reggie DeLine has a shot at one in his final box, the 8th.
Oh, looks like that wood will cover both pins, too, as long as he doesn't cap it.
He doesn't.
That was a big mark.
That is spare number 15 for the team of Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine. Somewhat unusual. All spares, 15, no strikes for the team. Joe Ashline now for the final two. He's working on a spare, but he needs some strikes probably.
Well, at least mark out. And he's got to have decent fills. That's a decent fill. Well, you got to break with a 10-pin going down. Otherwise, he had a real difficult shot. 4-8 left. And obviously, it's a must.
Got it. Spare in the ninth. That's the 13th mark for the team of Ashline and Richards. They have 5 strikes. But with the exception of that little rush at the end of the first game, they just haven't been able to put very many marks together.
Like number 6 here. And again, he slides some pins over. He gets a 6 fill on the spare. And he really needs to convert this. We'll have to have that wood checked.
Joe Paglia handling the lob line and the deadwood line down on the plate for us, and he's going to make his first trip down there and check and see on this wood. If it's in play, it's going to make Joe's shot very difficult, but it is out. So it'll be a clear shot for Joe, but I'm not sure a clear shot is going to be
enough.
A good shot necessarily. This is not going to be an easy conversion. Oh, he's got it. Very nice.
Keeps himself alive. 121 on the ball.
And a 6. Great. 127 for a 3-string total of 372.
So Reggie or Pat would really have to butcher the spare and not get any other marks and have some bad frames too. So this could tell the story. Well,
it's not quite over yet. They need 8 more pins. 88 will win it.
Whoa.
Well, there's 5. Well, amazingly, this goes down to the final box.
Would have guessed.
And that'll do it. Had them all the way, right? And the spare in the 10th. Looked like they might be a shoe-in to get a 400 triple, but it's not going to happen. Pat Pay will fill this 16th spare for the team with a 7, a 102, and a 387. So a 15-pin victory for the team of Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine. They will advance in Stars and Strikes doubles. We'll talk to both teams as we continue right after these words. Welcome back to Park Place Lanes. Our first match on Stars and Strikes doubles is in the books. Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine will advance to try and make it 2 in a row next week. We want you to meet all the bowlers. How about a round of applause now as we bring up Dave Richards and Joe Ashline. And for you gentlemen, $150 to split for fifth prize money. Just swing right around here, guys, so we can get you on camera. And Dave, there you go, and Joe for you. And it just didn't happen. You guys were never able to really get a long stretch of marks together, and that's really what you need.
No, we weren't getting any breaks. Joe was going right through the middle on the marks, and he wasn't carrying the extra pins. Reggie and Pat were carrying the extra pins.
It seemed, Joe, at the beginning you really had the strike ball working, and then after that, the third string, you just couldn't buy a break.
Nah, we needed strikes too in the last string, and I couldn't throw any, so hey, that's a game.
Also, boy, Pat and Reggie very consistent, getting a lot of marks, carrying a lot of extra pins, and making it tough.
Yeah, they worked good as a team together. They did all right.
All right, well, both of you guys, I'm sure, will be back either on this show or on the singles show. In fact, Dave, we'll see you next Sunday on Stars and Strikes at noon in the singles show. And, Joe, I'm sure we'll see you again as well.
Try.
All right.
Stinks losing to Reggie, though. I'll tell you.
Thanks very much, guys. We appreciate it. All right, congratulations. Joe Ashline and Dave Richards. And now let's bring up our winning team, Reggie DeLine and Pat Pay. How about a round of applause for them as they join us here? Reggie and Pat, come on in and turn around so we can get you right on camera. Reggie, your first appearance here, and you made it a real successful. You didn't seem to be nervous at all while you were up there.
Oh, no. I'm not nervous at all. I have a good partner here, too, you know.
That's right. You guys were both firing real well.
Oh, yeah. We look good today. We didn't get any strikes, but we got all the spares we needed.
We talked about that. You had a lot of leaves that you were able to get the spares working, but never the strikes. But I guess you get that many spares, Pat, you don't need the strikes, right?
Well, we put the marks together, and that's the big thing in a doubles show.
You really did put a nice stretch together, especially in that first game, and we'll be looking for you now. Next week you'll be facing another tough team, and we'll be looking for you again to try and make two in a row.
We're going to give it the best shot.
All right. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. That's Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine. Let's look at the ladder and tell you what's going to be coming up in the weeks ahead as we bring Dan Murphy back in here. Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine advancing, and now, Dan, they move to, as you mentioned, face that number 3 seeded team, the team they lost to by 3 pins in that special roll-off match.
Yeah, they know that team real well, and the roll-off score, as I mentioned, 155 to 152 to determine the seeding. So there's not any bad blood there, but I'm sure they'd like to get back at them. And
of course, Denon and Plant sitting in that number 2 spot, and Carrington and Jack Ray waiting in the number 1 spot.
Yeah, well, on paper, I guess if you go by track records, you'd have to give the edge to Carrington and Ray. But you never know. They jumped out today to a big lead and were just able to hold on that last game. So you never know.
All right, once again, the final score, 387 to 372. Pat Pay and Reggie DeLine hold on to get the win by 15 pins. And they will move on to face Don Weatherby and John Maffio next Sunday at 1 o'clock here on Stars and Strikes Doubles. We're so happy that you joined us for our opening show, and we'll be looking for you next Sunday at 1. Until then, for Dan Murphy and the whole TV50 Sports crew, Doug Brown, so long from Park Place Lanes.